Hello, Squirrel Tribe. So it turns out that a lot of places that we thought were completely going out of business, like the ones who filed bankruptcy, we thought they're going away, never going to see them again. Turns out that's not always the case, which I guess you could be grateful for, thankful for. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. So like right now, there's this company called Salt Life. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's a Florida thing, but you see the stickers on everybody's car. If they visit Florida one time, they buy the sticker and they throw it on their car and they drive all over the United States with it, right? Salt Life is huge. I have a ton of Salt Life shirts that I wear. Well, they went out of business just like overnight in the end of last year, 2024. I remember there was a Salt Life store in the outlets in Destin, Miramar, Santa Rosa kind of area here in Okaloosa area of Florida, the Gulf of America section of Florida, the Panhandle. And we used to go to the store all the time just to see what was going on because they had a lot of really nice shirts and things like that, right? And then out of nowhere, they're like, oh, by the way, we're going out of business. We've opened too many. Basically, what it came down to, what we assumed it came down to, was that they did too much too fast because Salt Life started, and the next thing you know, they were everywhere. Stores all over the place, all of their online marketing, everybody and their mama had something Salt Life related, right? And then towards the end of last year, they said, hey, we're closing up, we're going bankrupt, we're closing everything down, we can't do this anymore, everything's on clearance. And so you could go get a $60 sweatshirt for like $10 by the end of it, right? Like they closed the stores immediately, they liquidated the crap out of everything. And so I thought they were out of business. This morning, lo and behold, I wake up and I open up my email on my handy dandy computer. Actually, I was on my phone this morning. I was on my phone. So I open my phone and I get on my email, Yahoo email, right? Personal one. And I see Salt Life and I was like, this is going to be spam because they went out of business. Well, it turns out they did not. So for those of you who are curious, because this leads into the next company I'm about to tell you about that is going out of business technically. So I asked Grok, because Grok seems to be the know-all be-all of what's going on because it can pull information from all over the place, right? So Grok is on X. For those of you who don't know, it's X, the social media app. That's where Grok is. It's the Elon Musk love child of technology and AI, whatever. So I asked Grok, I said, did Salt Life go completely out of business? And Grok said, well, no, it said Salt Life did not go completely out of business. However, the company has undergone significant changes. In September of 2024, Salt Life's parent company, Delta Apparel, filed for bankruptcy. This is why it's important. It wasn't Salt Life that filed for bankruptcy. They were unfortunately a unwilling participant of the bankruptcy because Delta Apparel filed bankruptcy. So anything that's going to be under Delta Apparel, think of it as an umbrella. Delta Apparel is the umbrella part, and underneath are all the people that are being covered by Delta Apparel. Well, Delta Apparel goes out of business. They file bankruptcy. It's going to affect everybody underneath that umbrella, right? So they filed bankruptcy. It said it led to the closure of all 28 Salt Life retail stores across 10 states because it said they went big. They said go big or go home when they first hit the ground running, right? And it says the brand was acquired by Hilco Consumer Retail Group and Iconics International through a bankruptcy auction. So these companies that once they're going bankrupt, it turns out they have bankruptcy auctions for these businesses. And I'm curious if that's how Overstock.com got Bed Bath & Beyond. We talked about them before, how they went through bankruptcy, had to close down. Well, Joann's, the fabric store, I think it's just like a fabric store, arts and crafts kind of thing. They're going through a massive bankruptcy right now. I wonder if somebody's going to come through at a bankruptcy auction and save them, buy them up, and then take them digital, which is what we've had happen here with Salt Life. So according to this, the new owners are transitioning Salt Life to a wholesale and e-commerce business model, meaning physical retail stores are closing, but the brand continues to operate online and through wholesale channels. Liquidation sales for the retail stores began in September, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. We have talked so many times about how everything seems to be going online digital. It feels like during the whole C-19 closure of the world, that was the massive push for it. Yeah, we had online shopping and all that stuff before COVID. It's not like it was anything new, but when COVID hit, it became well, if you want anything, honey, this is how you're going to get it. You're going to have to order it online because that store's closed. That store's closed. If you don't have this, you can't go to that store. If you're sick, you can't go into this store. You can't go in the store after this hour. Like all these different stipulations with these stores. So a lot of people went online because they didn't want to go into the stores. Well, that has stuck with so many people. And then businesses over that same time frame realize, hey, listen, We don't need this brick and mortar. People are perfectly fine ordering online. I'd rather pay for a delivery person than I would for 15 employees inside this brick and mortar store. We'll buy a van, we'll have a delivery driver, we'll have a warehouse. It's going to be cheaper in the long run than having, like I said, the brick and mortar store, the on leased land with the insurance and all this other stuff, and then all the employees you have to pay. It's a lot cheaper for a business to be an online business than a in-person, can walk in, touch all the stuff and talk to the people kind of business, right? So for them to do this, it makes sense, right? At least Salt Life is still around. They're still manufacturing. It's just they've taken away your ability to try anything on, to put your hands on anything, to really have that experience that people love. My husband makes fun of me. I point like this. He's in the shower. I don't know why I pointed like y'all know that means my husband's over there. He makes fun of me because I love Christmas shopping. I loathe it as much as I love it, but I love going out during the holidays and going into the stores and hearing the Christmas music and seeing the decorations and walking through, the cold with a cup of coffee or a latte or whatever in my hands. It's just this thing. It reminds me of childhood, and it's one of those feel good kind of things for me. Whereas my husband, he never did that kind of stuff when he was younger. So now he orders everything online. For him, that is more enjoyable, where he doesn't have to deal with the crowds. He doesn't have to deal with finding a parking spot. He doesn't have to deal with the long ass lines at the register. So there are people out there who are obviously crazy like me and like that hustle and bustle of the norm. Like for me, that's the norm. I've spent more of my life shopping inside stores than I have buying online, right? I'm 43 years old. For those of you that are older than me, you've spent even longer with the normal way of life, right? It will always be the normal way of life to me to be able to walk into a location, try things on, pick things up, put them down, stand in the line, talk to the person in front of you or behind you, make chit chat with the person ringing you up, have the transaction of something being handed to you and you say thank you and all these other things, and being able to pay cash. You can't do that online, which is another whole thing with the whole e-commerce push, that it's like one of those things where it will slowly push the need for cash out. Cash is king. It should always be king. But the more we end up with these online stores, the less we need the cash for. You have banks that are closing all over the place between Canada and here. Tons of banks. I think TD, whatever it's called, TD something, is closing a ton of their branches. A couple other banks are closing down. And it's not because there's not customers. It's because there's really no need for that cash transaction with the teller. You can take pictures of your check. You get your phone, you open the app, take a picture of the front of the check, the back of the check, and now you've deposited it, and you never had to go inside a bank. You didn't have to go to a teller. You didn't have to go through the drive-through, any of those things. And you can do everything digitally now. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, so we are moving farther and farther away from these retail stores, but at least they are still in business. That is the silver lining. To me, that is the silver lining, that this company still technically exists, even though it's not in the realm that we are used to it or would really like it to be, because there's definitely going to be less employees for an online business than a brick and mortar business. But the reason this is important is because they're not the only ones. Like I said, Joann is going through this massive bankruptcy. Will somebody buy them up and do the same thing that Overstock.com did with Bed Bath & Beyond? Will Overstock buy Joann's and just clump it in with their online umbrella because they're going to have so many things underneath, right? Then Hooters is going bankrupt. Although I'm not quite sure how you sell chicken wings online, but maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe there'll be a bankruptcy auction for Hooters, which when you say it like that, that sounds wrong and XXX rated. And anyway, continue on. So I see this, and then Sarah, she is the moderator on this channel. She sends me an email right before I hit record on this. The timing, ma'am, is just crazy. She sends me this email. It says Dick's Sporting Goods to buy Foot Locker for $2.4 billion. So now you have another business that is being bought up by another bigger business, that whole umbrella thing. This is what the problem is. And there's a lot of problems, but to me, the problem here is you have more and more big umbrellas with everything little underneath it. And when that big umbrella breaks, what happens? That's hard to say. What happens to everything underneath, as opposed to everybody having their own little piece of the pie? Now it's one big pie with no pieces. And when something goes wrong, it's going to hurt a lot more. That whole domino effect, right? If you have all these domino pieces that are nowhere near each other and one falls, cool. The rest of them are still fine. But if you have them lined up the way these companies are doing, with the way they're buying everything up and keeping them all in one big portfolio, you have one domino that falls, the rest of them are going to go down with it because they're all interconnected in certain ways, right? So now you have Dick's Sporting Goods buying Foot Locker. Well, before Dick's Sporting Goods was Dick's Sporting Goods, which the name never understood. Nobody wants to say they work for Dick, right? The name used to be how I worked there. I should know. Halkins. Yo, it's been so long, I don't remember, but I worked there before it was Dick's Sporting Goods. It was still the same concept store. It was just bought out and renamed. Halkins? Really, Michelle? Okay, my brain, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But Dick's Sporting Goods, it says they're branching out and buying struggling retailer Foot Locker for $2.4 billion. We were talking about this, my husband and daughter and I, when we go out shopping and just, walking around trying to get fresh air or whatever, all these different malls and outdoor shopping spaces. You see Journeys, the shoe store. You see Foot Locker every once in a while. You don't really see Champs as often. You don't see, what was the other one besides Foot Locker? There was another one that I cannot remember the name of right now besides Champs and Foot Locker. There was a different one. Not helpful to y'all, I'm fully aware, that you never ever see anymore. There used to be a mall we would go to in Georgia over where we used to live before we moved here. Foot Locker went away. Champs was still around, but some other random store came in and bought out the Foot Locker location and still sold sneakers and apparel and stuff like that. But it was like this edgy, urban kind of location and no longer what you're used to with Foot Locker with everything else. But it says here that Kids Foot Locker, Champs Sports, WSS, and Atmos were all under the Foot Locker umbrella. So now Dick's Sporting Goods is going to have all of them. So Champs Sports and the Foot Locker and the Kids Foot Locker all going to be under Dick's Sporting Goods. And again, if something were to go wrong with Dick's, I'm a child mentally because I cannot get through these things. It's going to affect everything underneath it. It says there will be 2,400 Foot Locker and associated branded stores in about 24 countries. I forget that they are all over the place. It says it will be the first international foray for Dick's Sporting Goods. The company has about 700 stores in the US. And according to this, it says sports and sports culture continue to be incredibly powerful. And with this acquisition, we'll create a new global platform that serves those ever-evolving needs through iconic concepts consumers know and love, enhanced store designs, and omni-channel experiences, as well as a product mix that appeals to our different customer base. You know what, though? It's actually genius, because if Dick's Sporting Goods has 700 US stores, but nothing international, when people are worried about tariffs and whatever's going on, this will help them alleviate some of that, because they will have things in other countries already that won't have to be tariffed because they're already sold where they're manufactured in theory, or the tariffs aren't the same as they are here in the United States of America. Actually, very smart, Dick's Sporting Goods. But at the end of the day, you're going to see a lot more, unfortunately, businesses that are either going under or restructuring by going bankrupt. Because when you go bankrupt, depending on if you're filing Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or Chapter... My brain can't decide if it's 13 or 15. There's another one. There's the restructuring, and then there's the whole, we've effed up, wipe it all clean, and, hold me accountable, whatever. There's so many different ways of filing bankruptcy. But a lot of companies will do it to basically move around the debts that they have and find ways to almost start new. And this is probably a way for Joann's and Hooters, like we said, and all these other ones to figure out how to move things around. Same, like we said with Salt Life, they technically went out of business to no fault of their own because their parent company is the one who filed bankruptcy. That's the downside to that umbrella we were talking about, but at least they're still in business. And this is just, I feel like you're going to see more and more of this happening because people are still talking negatively about President Trump's tariffs, even though they are not really causing that much of a headache or a hiccup or an issue right now, whether it's in the automotive industry, whether it's in, the technology industry, the food industry. There hasn't been anything significant that has happened in regards to President Trump's tariffs. And now that those tariffs are actually even coming down even more, there should be no real reason for companies to shutter their doors or overcharge their customers because of these tariffs. But I think you'll still see companies that are going to be trying to decide if it makes more financial, economical sense for them to stay in business as a brick and mortar versus going digital. Because the downside here is the population that prefers going out to buy things aren't generally speaking the population that's actually going out and spending the most money. I read a report about it somewhere. I can't remember what website it was on, what app it was on. If I remember, I'll put it in the pinned comment. But they were talking about how you have these different age brackets and how they shop. And the age bracket, mine and above, that prefer these brick and mortar stores, even they are slowly dwindling into the e-commerce because maybe their kids, because of their grandkids, because of mobility issues, because of discounts that you can get online that you can't get in person, because of being worried about all of the just random BS that's going on in stores and out in the streets these days. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So we're seeing more and more people who are slowly going over towards that e-commerce side, and businesses are paying attention to that as well. They notice what their foot traffic is like. They notice when their foot traffic dies down. They also notice when their online sales start to go up. So like for me yesterday, I ordered a bunch of bathing suits through Target. I don't plan on keeping them, but I also don't want to go to the store to try them all on. I, as a female, do not enjoy standing in a tiny little box of a fitting room with a mirror that doesn't really show me anything, with lighting that's crappy, while listening to other people talk and trying to decide if I like how this bathing suit looks or not. So I order them for the house. I'll try them on in my own safe haven of light and mirror. And then whatever I don't like, I will go return. So they're going to get e-commerce traffic from my purchase online, and they will get foot traffic when I go return it into the store, because I'm going to need something else, I'm sure, probably. But either way, random, I know, but this is something that interests me. So thank you for letting me have this conversation with y'all about brick and mortar and e-commerce and businesses in general. I think it's fascinating. And that is all. I love you, Squirrel Tribe. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. See you later. Bye-bye.